You can do almost everything right and still send your body the wrong signal. You can eat cleaner, walk more, skip dessert, and promise yourself this time will be different. But if stress hormones stay high, your body may not hear we're getting healthy. It may hear something is wrong. Protect the fuel. That is why belly fat can feel so personal. It sits there like proof that your effort isn't working, even when you know you've been trying. You tighten the diet, add more movement, maybe stretch the fasting window, and still the waistline responds slowly. At some point, you stop wondering what you ate and start wondering what's broken. But what if the most important change is not forcing the body harder? What if the first real breakthrough happens when the body finally stops defending itself? That sounds backwards, because most people treat belly fat like an enemy that has to be attacked. But biology often works differently. The more threatened the body feels, the more carefully it protects its reserves. Stress hormones are not villains. They are survival messengers, built to keep you alert, fueled, and ready when life demands quick action. The problem begins when the alarm does not shut off after the danger has passed. Then your liver, blood sugar, insulin, appetite, sleep, and fat cells all start acting like the emergency is still happening. This is where the hidden mechanism begins to explain everything. Stress hormones can tell the liver to release glucose, even when you are trying to burn stored fat. That glucose can keep insulin more active, and insulin can keep fat cells from opening easily. So the belly is not always ignoring your effort. It may be obeying a stronger chemical command. And this is why the mirror can be so misleading. Before belly fat visibly changes, you may first notice fewer cravings, steadier energy, better sleep, and less urgent hunger. Those are not small things. They are clues that the internal alarm is getting quieter. The body may be changing the rules before the waistline shows the results. What you are about to understand is not another punishment plan. It is the chain reaction that connects stress, cortisol, liver glucose, insulin, cravings, and stubborn belly fat. Once you see that chain clearly, the solution becomes less about fighting your body and more about changing the signal. And that is where fat loss starts to feel less like a battle and more like biology finally making sense. So before we talk about what happens when stress hormones finally drop, we need to begin with the most frustrating part. Why does belly fat feel so protected when you are genuinely trying? Why does the body sometimes hold on tighter right when you push harder? The answer starts with one simple idea. Your body may think life is an emergency. You can eat cleaner, walk more, skip snacks, and still feel like your belly fat is guarding the door with both hands. That's the part that makes people feel crazy. Because effort is happening, discipline is happening, and the waistline still moves like it's made of concrete. You look at your meals, your steps, your fasting window, and you think, what else am I supposed to do? But your body may not be resisting change because you're lazy. It may be resisting because it thinks something is wrong. Most people believe belly fat is just stored extra calories, waiting to be burned once they finally try hard enough. So they push harder, eat less, train more, drink more coffee, and treat the body like a stubborn machine that needs pressure. But biology doesn't work like a calculator when the alarm system is screaming in the background. When your body senses threat, fat loss stops being a beauty project and becomes a survival negotiation. Stress hormones are designed to help you survive short bursts of danger, not modern life that never seems to turn off. When they stay elevated, your body prioritizes alertness, blood sugar stability, and emergency fuel over calm fat burning. It wants fast energy ready in the bloodstream, because biologically, it doesn't know the difference between a predator and a deadline. So instead of gently pulling energy from stored fat, it keeps preparing you to fight, flee, think fast, and stay awake. Think of belly fat like an emergency fuel tank strapped to the center of the body. When life feels safe, that tank can slowly open and feed your cells between meals. But when the alarm keeps ringing, your body puts a warning label on that tank. Do not use unless absolutely necessary. It's frustrating, but from the body's point of view, protecting that fuel makes perfect sense. Imagine someone named Mark who starts eating salads at lunch, skips dessert, and walks after work every night. But he sleeps 5 hours, checks emails before bed, drinks coffee until mid-afternoon, and wakes up already tense. On paper, Mark is doing the healthy things, but internally his body is reading the day like a slow emergency. His habits are saying burn fat, but his stress chemistry is saying hold the reserves. The first shift is not to blame yourself harder. It's to recognize the signal you may be sending. Before adding another extreme diet rule, look at the basics that tell the body it is safe. Morning light, steady meals, calmer evenings, and real sleep. Even a 10-minute walk after dinner, a slower bedtime routine, or cutting caffeine earlier can begin changing the message. You are not trying to baby the body. You are trying to stop, convincing it that every day is a crisis. This is the part most people completely miss. Stubborn belly fat is not always a discipline problem. Sometimes it's a stress signal problem, where the body has enough stored energy but does not feel safe releasing it consistently. That means the question changes from how do I punish this fat off to what signal is keeping this system defended. And once you ask that question, the whole mystery starts opening up in a different way. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Before your body ever decides whether to burn belly fat, it first has to decide what to do with blood sugar. And stress hormones have a direct line to the liver, one of the most powerful chemical factories in the body. To understand why the belly is so affected, we have to see what stress does to blood sugar before fat burning even begins. Here's the strange part. You can be trying to burn fat while your own body is quietly making more sugar. Not because you ate candy, not because you had bread, and not because you lost control. Your body can create emergency fuel from the inside, even when your stomach is empty. And when that happens, fat burning gets pushed to the back of the line. Most people think blood sugar only rises after eating carbohydrates. So if they cut sugar, skip breakfast, or fast longer, they assume the bloodstream should become calm. But then they feel shaky, wired, strangely hungry, or desperate for something sweet. And it feels confusing. They think, how can I be craving sugar when I didn't even eat any? The answer begins with stress hormones talking to the liver. When cortisol and adrenaline rise, they send a message that sounds like, we may need energy fast. The liver responds by releasing stored glucose or creating new glucose from available materials. This is useful if you're escaping danger, but not so useful if the threat is traffic, poor sleep, or a tense meeting. Think of the liver like a chemical factory with an emergency generator in the back room. When the alarm goes off, the factory doesn't ask whether the danger is real, emotional, or happening on a laptop screen. It just starts sending quick-burning fuel into the bloodstream so your brain and muscles can stay ready. The problem is, most modern emergencies don't require sprinting through the woods. They require sitting still and answering emails. Picture Lisa trying to lose belly fat by fasting until noon. She wakes up after a short night, drinks 2 strong coffees, rushes into work, and handles 3 stressful calls before 10 a.m. She hasn't eaten, but her body is not relaxed and dipping into fat smoothly. Her liver is quietly feeding the bloodstream because her stress chemistry says, keep fuel available, something's coming. A better first move is not always fasting harder. For many healthy adults, it may be smarter to lower the morning alarm before extending the fast. That could mean getting sunlight outside, drinking water with minerals, taking a calm walk, breathing slowly for 2 minutes, or delaying coffee until after hydration. The goal is to help the body feel steady enough that it doesn't keep manufacturing emergency fuel. This is rare knowledge because most people only look at food, not the internal fuel the body creates under stress. You can have an empty plate, but still have a bloodstream full of glucose because the liver is doing its survival job. And when glucose keeps appearing, the body doesn't need to rush into stored fat as quickly. It has quick fuel floating around, so the belly fat tank can stay protected a little longer. But what happens next changes the entire picture. Once stress hormones keep nudging glucose upward, another hormone has to step in to manage it. That hormone is insulin, and insulin has a very specific message for fat cells. So to understand why belly fat feels locked away, we need to follow that emergency sugar into the next hormone in the chain. If you feel like your body is constantly stuck in alert mode, with poor sleep, fatigue, untimely hunger, and stubborn abdominal fat, I've prepared the complete cortisol reset bundle. Inside, you'll receive the main guide, the cortisol reset, plus 2 bonuses, low nighttime cortisol protocol and cortisol, insulin, and abdominal fat. The link is in the description. This is where belly fat starts to feel less like a math problem and more like a locked room. You may be eating less, avoiding obvious junk, and still feel like your midsection refuses to open. That stuck feeling is not imaginary, and it's not just about willpower fading by Friday. It often comes from a hormonal traffic jam your body has been trying to manage all day. The common mistake is thinking insulin only matters after a big sugary meal. So people blame bread, dessert, or late-night snacks, but miss the stress signal running underneath everything. If stress hormones keep making blood sugar more reactive, insulin has to keep showing up to clean up the mess. And when insulin shows up too often, here's the chain inside the body. Stress rises, cortisol tells the liver to send out glucose, glucose rises, and insulin responds. Insulin's job is not evil. It moves glucose out of the bloodstream, so your blood doesn't become overloaded with fuel. But while insulin is active, stored fat becomes harder to access because the body is dealing with immediate sugar first. So belly fat can stay protected, not because it's impossible to burn, but because another fuel source keeps interrupting. Think of insulin like a security guard standing in front of the fat cell door. When blood sugar needs managing, that guard steps forward and says, "Nobody leaves yet. We're storing and organizing." When life is calm and meals are spaced well, the guard can take breaks and the door can open. But when stress keeps sending glucose into the blood, the guard keeps coming back to work overtime. Imagine Sarah eating a small dinner because she wants to lose belly fat, but she eats it after a brutal day, while scrolling stressful messages, then sleeps badly and wakes up tense. Even with a modest meal, her body may still spend the night juggling stress hormones, glucose, and insulin. She did not fail because dinner was too big. Her body was simply receiving too many emergency signals at once. The practical goal is not to crush insulin or eliminate cortisol, because you need both to stay alive and healthy. The goal is rhythm. Stress hormones rise when needed, fall when appropriate, and allow insulin to return to baseline. A simple rhythm might look like protein at meals, fewer constant snacks, a walk after eating, caffeine earlier in the day, and a consistent bedtime. For many people, these ordinary habits create a quieter bloodstream before belly fat ever visibly changes. The deeper insight is that fat loss becomes easier when the body can spend more time in a low insulin environment without feeling threatened. That does not mean starving yourself into a longer fast while your nervous system is already on fire. It means building enough safety that insulin can step back naturally, because glucose is steadier and stress hormones are not constantly pushing fuel into circulation. When that happens, fat cells receive a different message. The emergency may be ending, and stored energy can become available again. But the change is not only happening in your blood. As stress hormones drop and insulin gets a chance to calm down, the nervous system starts shifting out of high alert. And before the mirror shows a dramatic difference, something else often changes first. Your hunger, cravings, sleep, and energy begin telling you the lock is weakening. This is the part that can make you quit too early. Your body may start changing internally before your belly looks different in the mirror. The waistline may still feel slow, but the control panel behind it may already be shifting. And if you don't know what signs to watch for, you might miss the first proof that things are working. Most people expect belly fat to be the first scoreboard, so they check the mirror every morning, pinch the same area, and decide nothing is happening. Then frustration hits, and they go back to harsher fasting, harder workouts, or more caffeine. But the first signs of lower stress hormones often show up as calmer hunger, fewer cravings, deeper sleep, and steadier energy. When the nervous system leaves high alert mode, the body becomes less desperate for quick fuel. Stress hormones are no longer yelling at the liver to keep glucose ready every minute. Blood sugar becomes less jumpy, insulin gets fewer emergency calls, and the brain stops hunting for fast sugar like it's a rescue mission. That's why cravings can soften before fat loss becomes obvious. The internal emergency is losing volume. Think of your nervous system like the control panel in a building during a fire drill. When the alarm is blaring, every door, light, and elevator responds to the emergency setting. But when the alarm is turned down, the building does not instantly renovate itself. First, the lights steady, the doors unlock, the elevators return, and then normal work can begin again. Maybe you used to feel a snack attack every night around 9 p.m. You weren't really hungry, but your brain wanted cereal, chocolate, chips, or anything crunchy enough to count as emotional support. Then after a week of earlier caffeine, a walk after dinner, more protein at lunch, and a calmer bedtime, that craving loses its grip. Your belly may not look dramatically different yet, but your biology just whispered, "We're not in danger like before." So watch the early signals instead of only watching the mirror. Notice if you wake up less puffy, need less caffeine to feel human, stop crashing at 3 p.m., or feel satisfied after a real meal. Try pairing dinner with a 10 to 15-minute easy walk, dimming screens earlier, and building meals around protein like eggs, chicken, salmon, Greek yogurt, tofu, or legumes. These actions help smooth glucose, reduce late-night stimulation, and give the nervous system fewer reasons to pull the emergency lever. The deeper insight is that cravings are not always a character flaw. Sometimes they are the brain's response to a body that feels underfueled, underrested, overstimulated, or chemically on edge. When stress drops, the brain doesn't need to scream for fast fuel, because the bloodstream is less chaotic and the body can access stored energy more calmly. That is when the belly fat lock starts weakening, even if the visual change is still catching up. But there is one hidden trap most people never see coming. Right when the body begins to calm down, they panic, because the mirror is slow, and they turn the pressure back up. They fast harder, train harder, sleep less, and pour more coffee on a system that was finally learning to relax. And that mistake can restart the same stress cycle that kept the belly defended in the first place. This is where the usual advice can quietly turn against you. You see stubborn belly fat, feel impatient, and decide the answer must be more restriction, more sweat, and more pressure. But if your body already thinks life is an emergency, pushing harder can sound like another alarm. The plan meant to burn belly fat can accidentally teach the body to defend it. Most people assume gentler means, so they cut calories too low, fast too aggressively, stack intense workouts, sleep less, and drink caffeine like it's a personality trait. But the body does not reward punishment just because the intention is healthy. It responds to the signal underneath it. When food drops too low, training climbs too high, and sleep becomes shorter, stress hormones can rise to keep you functioning. Cortisol tells the liver to release glucose. Glucose invites insulin, and insulin can keep fat cells in storage mode. At the same time, poor recovery can reduce muscle repair, increase hunger signals, and make cravings louder by the evening. So the body is not being dramatic. It is trying to protect you from a plan that feels like shortage plus danger. Think of metabolism like a campfire you are trying to keep alive through the night. Extreme dieting is like yanking away the logs and then blaming the flame for getting smaller. Overtraining is like throwing wind at the fire and calling it discipline. But protein, sleep, walking, minerals, and smart strength training are the steady logs that let the fire burn without panic. Imagine someone named David who decides to get serious after noticing his waistline creeping up. He skips breakfast, eats a tiny lunch, does brutal evening workouts, sleeps 5 hours, and uses coffee to drag himself through the day. For a week, he feels proud, but by Friday he is wired, starving, irritable, and raiding the pantry like a raccoon with a gym membership. His body didn't betray him. It simply read the strategy as threat, shortage, and no recovery. A better rhythm starts by lowering stress while still supporting metabolism. Get morning light in your eyes, take a daily walk, build meals around protein like eggs, salmon, chicken, Greek yogurt, lean beef, tofu, or legumes, and lift weights without turning every session into punishment. Use caffeine strategically, preferably earlier, hydrate with minerals, and protect a steady sleep window with dimmer lights and less late-night stimulation. For healthy adults, fasting can be useful, but if you have diabetes, take medication, are pregnant, nursing, or have a history of eating disorders, major fasting changes deserve professional guidance. The deeper insight is that fat loss works best when the body senses both access and safety. Access means insulin spends enough time lower, so stored energy can leave the fat cells. Safety means the nervous system is not flooded with signals. When those two conditions meet, belly fat is no longer a protected emergency account. It becomes usable fuel. And that is the shift the whole body has been waiting for. Once stress hormones finally drop, belly fat loss stops, feeling like a battle against a stubborn enemy. It becomes the natural result of a body no longer feeling forced to defend itself. But the most powerful way to make this entire story land is to begin with the pain most people know all too well. Maybe the real lesson is that your belly fat was never just sitting there randomly. It was listening to signals every single day. Signals from your sleep, your stress, your blood sugar, your meals, your movement, and even the way you pushed yourself. And once you understand that, it means you need a better rhythm, one that sends your body fewer emergency messages. A walk after meals, enough protein, earlier caffeine, steady sleep, hydration with minerals, and strength training that builds instead of breaks you down. These are not tiny habits. When you understand the biology behind them, they are instructions your body can actually read. And maybe that is the shift that matters most. You stop asking, how do I force this fat off? And you start asking, what message has my body been receiving? And how can I change it? That question can turn frustration into strategy. So pay attention to the early signs. Maybe the first win is not a smaller waist tomorrow morning. Maybe it is fewer cravings at night, steadier energy in the afternoon, deeper sleep, or a calmer hunger signal. Those are signs that the body may be lowering its defenses before the mirror catches up. Which of these signals do you think your body has been receiving every day? Has it been hearing safety, nourishment, and recovery? Or has it been hearing pressure, shortage, poor sleep, and constant urgency? And which habit are you going to test first? The walk, the meal timing, the sleep reset, or the stress signal? Share your answer in the comments, because your pattern may help someone else recognize their own. And if this helped you understand your body in a way that finally makes sense, subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications too, because the next lessons will keep connecting these hidden biological patterns. The more clearly you understand the signals, the easier it becomes to stop fighting your body and start working with it. Your body is not ignoring you. It is responding to the instructions it has been given. Change the signal consistently, and for many people, the defenses can begin to come down. And when the body finally feels safe enough to let go, fat loss stops being a war and starts becoming a response.